Introduction to the Study of Tariff and the Harmonized System. Genesis. It should first be recalled that the convention formally establishing the Customs Cooperation Council entered into force in 1952, and the inaugural session of the Council was held at the current World Trade Organization headquarters in Brussels on 26 January 1953. This date is currently adopted as World Customs Day by all customs administrations that are members of the Customs Cooperation Council. The Harmonized System Convention was adopted by the Customs Cooperation Council on June 14, 1983. It entered into force on January 1, 1988. Currently, more than 200 states and customs unions use the Harmonized System, and nearly 98% of international trade is based on the principles and provisions of the Harmonized System. The contracting parties to this convention undertake to take as a basis the Harmonized System for the preparation of their import tariff and their import and export tariff and statistical nomenclature, and this by the application of the general interpretative rules. By complying with the provisions of the notes of sections, chapters and subchapters. By using the terms and codifications of the positions and subchapters of the Harmonized System without addition or modification, and to follow the numbering order set up. The Harmonized System is intended to facilitate international trade and should allow the methodical classification of goods, the assignment to a commodity of the most appropriate classification, uniform in the tariffs in force, the unification of customs language, to be made easily accessible to all users, importers, exporters, producers, carriers, administrative services, etc. The development of an effective tool for the negotiation of trade agreements, their correct application and interpretation, and the establishment of data necessary for the compilation of statistics. The particularities of the Harmonized System. It should be recalled that in reality, it is estimated that there are between 50 million and 100 million types of goods in the world. The Harmonized System contains 1,241 four-digit positions, and 5,200 commodity groups identified by six-digit codes. The combined nomenclature of the European Community consists of approximately 10,000 eight-digit subchapters. The Harmonized System is therefore an exclusively six-digit numerical six-digit nomenclature, designed to classify all transportable physical goods, even those that are not subject to legal trade or international trade. For the purpose of tariff classification, the Harmonized System is a logical structure containing 1,241 positions with four digits, grouped into 96 chapters, articulated in 21 sections. The Harmonized System is an essential instrument that maintains a structure consistent with that required for tariff classification. The Harmonized System is therefore an exclusively numerical six-digit nomenclature. It is designed to classify transportable physical goods, even those that are not, in fact, the subject of international trade. The Harmonized System is, therefore, a nomenclature of all physical products and objects, including electricity, which falls under number 27.16.00. Nonetheless, the Harmonized System does not concern services. The Harmonized System is a nomenclature that includes a series of four-digit positions, which cover a particular product grouping. The headings are subdivided for the most part into six-digit subchapters, where the most important products are treated separately. The absence of subheadings is characterized by the number 0, such as heading 9706.00, for works of art and antiques more than 100 years old. The seventh and eighth digits of the numerical code are national specificities, specific to each country. National tariffs also include the ninth and 10th digits, which are also national specificities, specific to each country. The percentage of import duty and taxes to be paid corresponding to the national position. The standard quantification unit for the collection of statistical data, in a uniform manner, the complementary units for the purposes of declaratory, tax base and liquidation of certain taxes. In addition, it is specified that the term species of goods is defined as the name given to them by the customs tariff. In short, it should be noted that tariff headings are established progressively according to the degree of production, processing and transformation of the goods contained therein. What are the general interpretative rules of the harmonized system? It should be noted that the positions and subheadings of the harmonized system are accompanied by general interpretative rules, including section notes, chapter notes and subchapter notes, which form an integral part of the harmonized system. The general interpretative rules make it possible to classify, in a simple and precise manner, a specific good in a harmonized system heading, while excluding other headings or subheadings likely to compete for the classification of the said good. There are 6 of them. They have legal value. They are applied in hierarchical order. The general interpretative rule number 1. This is the fundamental rule that provides that the wording of the titles of sections, chapters and subchapters are only indicative, and that the classification of goods is legally determined on the basis of the terms of headings, section notes, chapter notes and subheading notes. However, if the wording of the positions and the legal notes are not sufficient for the determination, with certainty, of the position relating to a commodity, classification shall be carried out by applying, in hierarchical order, the provisions of the other general interpretative rules. The general interpretative rule number 2. This rule includes 2 components. The first part of this rule, Rule 2a, extends the scope of the positions to cover the complete article, as well as the incomplete or unfinished article, provided that it has, as it stands, the characteristics of the complete or finished article. For example, a car presented without engine, as in Section 17. A moped without a seal, as in Chapter 87. A piston blank for engine, as in Chapter 84. A plastic bottle per form, as in Chapter 39. The second part of the same Rule 2a makes it possible to classify with the assembled article, the finished or complete article, presented in the disassembled or unassembled state for the necessities, the conveniences of packing, handling or transport. For example, a series of pumps completely dismantled. A collection of unassembled motors. However, the items found to be in surplus must follow their own regime, and are to be classified in their specific positions. Second rule, Rule 2b extends the scope of a heading, which refers to a particular material, so as to extend its scope to that material, whether it is presented in its pure state, mixed or combined with other materials. The same applies to headings which cover articles of a particular material, which are to be considered as relating to such articles wholly or partly made of that material. Thus, and unless covered by another specified heading, any product composed of several materials must be classified according to the principles set out in Rule number 3. The general interpretative rule number 3. This rule sets out the classification principles applicable to goods, which appear to be classified under 2 or more headings. 1. Rule 3a provides for classification in the most specific position. However, 2 or more positions may also be considered as specific, when they each refer to only some of the materials constituting a mixed product, or composite article, or to only specific parts of the articles in the case of sets put up for retail sale, even if one of the headings gives a more precise or complete description. 2. Rule 3b provides that goods must be classified according to the material, or the article, that gives them their essential character. Therefore, it applies to mixed products, and to articles made of different materials, or made up of the assembly of different articles, as well as to goods presented in sets. 3. Rule 3c applies when Rules 3a and 3b are inoperative. In this case, it provides that the goods must be classified in the heading placed last in numbering order, among those validly taken into account for their classification. Before the implementation of the harmonized system, under such conditions, the classification to be taken into consideration was that of the most taxed position. The General Interpretative Rule Number 4. It allows the classification of a good under the heading relating to the most similar articles. This is the case in particular for an article, which, because of its novelty, is not specifically included in any of the positions of the harmonized system. The General Interpretative Rule Number 5. Rule 5A concerns the classification of cases, boxes or cases, etc., specially designed to receive instruments, apparatus or an assortment, with which they are classified, when they are designed for prolonged use, presented and normally sold with these goods for which they are intended. Rule 5B applies to usual packagings, normally designed to contain the transported goods, and which are classified with the latter. In addition, the provisions of Rule Number 5 do not apply. Containers that give the whole its essential character, such as a crystal candy box containing sweets, packaging, which may be validly used repeatedly in the case, for example, of steel cylinders containing gases. The General Interpretative Rule Number 6. This rule is the most delicate one. It provides that the classification in the subheadings of the same heading must be carried out, mutatis mutandis, according to the same principles as those applicable to classification in the 4-digit headings. In any event, priority must be given to the wording of the subchapter or the subheading notes. This rule also adds that only subheadings of the same rank, of the same level, may be compared for the purposes of classification. Thus, within the same position, the choice of a subheading with a dash can only be made on the basis of the wording of the subheadings with a dash. Similarly, the 2-dash subheading can then only be determined in the light of the texts of the subdivisions to which the applicable 1-dash subheading is subject. Thus in each case, a product must first be classified in the appropriate 4-digit position, in the single-dash subheading of that appropriate heading, and only then in the correct 2-dash subheading of the selected 1-dash subheading. Importance of section notes, chapter notes, and subheading notes. With few exceptions, all sections and chapters of the harmonized system are preceded by notes. There are also subheading notes, the text of which applies exclusively to the interpretation of the terms of the corresponding subheadings. These notes are an integral part of the harmonized system, and have the same legal value as the general interpretative rules. The purpose of these legal notes is to define, as precisely as possible, the content and limits of subheadings, groups of headings, chapters or sections. Some notes include a multitude of these processes, such as Note 4 to Chapter 40, which defines synthetic rubber according to scientific criteria, and gives a list of the products to be considered as covered by this definition. Therefore, and in accordance with Rule Number 6, the section and chapter notes are also applicable to the classification of goods in the subheadings. Therefore, in order to be able to classify a good exactly in the right position, it is always necessary to refer to the elements that are legally binding, namely, general interpretative rules, section, chapter, and subchapter notes, code numbers, and the wording of the nomenclature, including dashes. Finally, it is particularly recalled that these elements are inseparable, because the content of the wording is often and exactly understandable only with the help of the application of the rules and the legal notes.